Hello and welcome to Firearm Freedom. This is going to be another First Impressions video. In today's First Impressions video, we are looking at the holy grail of shotguns, the Franchi SPAS-12. And before we get this video started, as always, I wanted to give a huge shout out to this video's sponsor, which is, of course, Seal One. Seal One makes a wide variety of firearms, cleaning, and maintenance supplies. They are who I choose and have chosen for the past, 5 or 6 years for my go-to cleaning supplies. All their stuff is bio-based, it's non-toxic, it smells great. If you're cleaning in an area that does not have great ventilation, it is awesome because you don't have to worry about gross, toxic stuff just ruining everything about your health. They're a great supporter of the channel. They make everything from paste to aerosol to liquid and even sub-zero stuff and bow care products. They are now offering you guys a 25% off discount code. Go to their website, in the discount code section, put FF-25, and that's going to get you 25% off of your order. When you guys are watching this, it is a very real possibility that it will be the very same week a full review comes out or a first impressions video comes out on my Armalite AR-180. And my friends, I never thought in a million years that in 1 week I would be doing two firearms that were absolutely just holy grails for me. And the SPAS-12 I have wanted truly, ever since I was a kid and saw it in the Terminator 1 movie when he asks for it in the gun shop, and also in Jurassic Park. Those were two movies that made this shotgun iconic for me and also iconic for so many other people. Also, you have, of course, the incredible amount of video games and things and just everything. This shotgun is probably the most infamous shotgun of all time. I would consider this the granddaddy of iconic shotguns right here, and it is now on the Firearm Freedom review table. There are so many different videos about the SPAS-12, and I think a lot of them do this gun dirty, and I'm probably going to title this video something along the lines of The Truth of the SPAS-12. And I think there's a lot of misinformation going around about this shotgun on social media these days, thanks to a lot of other YouTubers. I'm not calling anyone out, but a lot of YouTubers that may not really be doing any sort of research or understanding of how this shotgun works or how it was designed to work, and kind of making it out to be a very crappy shotgun. And really, ultimately, that's always what I kind of thought about these shotguns as well. These shotguns have skyrocketed in price. I remember looking at these maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and you could easily come across, I say easily lightly, but you could come across a SPAS-12 for probably around the area of $1,500, maybe $2,000 on the high end. And it had all the stuff. Nowadays, every single little piece of this shotgun adds hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and we are even talking about the factory sling, which this is here. You can find these factory slings for like $275 on eBay, so that alone gives you a very good understanding of just how expensive these shotguns have gotten. And really, the only place that I've ever seen them pop up for sale is, of course, Gunbroker. I did find this shotgun on Gunbroker, but it was actually kind of like a little bit of a deal. This gentleman had it listed. Gunbroker took his listing down. He had no other listings, no other ratings, and I'm like, okay, it's definitely going to be spam. And it ended up not being spam, and he had the arm hook, the original factory tool, he had the original factory choke, the original limiter, and the original sling and manual, and those things alone make this an incredibly desirable package. But to make matters even more interesting, as some of you SPAS-12 enjoyers may notice, it does not have the lever safety. This is an older fire control unit that has the push button safety, which is the upgraded version. If you don't already know, the lever safety on these guns ended up actually being a total recall item. that needed to be brought back because that can inadvertently fire the gun if you mess with the safety, and that is bound to happen. It's not if, but when it happens. So having that already swapped out was a huge draw for me because I planned on actually using and enjoying my SPAS, so I wanted to have that upgraded safety, which of course this has. And the overall price that we settled on was $3,900 flat. And I know many of you that were looking at these shotguns 10 years ago are gonna throw up over that, but if you look at prices of today's day and age, you're seeing this package go easily north of $4,500, upwards of $5,000, depending on what is out there. So I would consider that, with all of these extras, still a fair deal. If anything, a pretty good deal nowadays on these shotguns. And I'm proud to say this thing was bomb-proof at the range. It ran everything from low brass target loads that would not cycle my 1187, but would cycle in this Franchi SPAS-12 on the semi-automatic setting. It ran buckshot, it ran higher brass target loads, it ran everything. I did not have a single hiccup. The only time I had one failure to eject, it was in the one arm shooting position. So I had my arm hooked down and I wanted to try out Franchi's idea of firing out of a moving vehicle with a SPAS-12, and I just did not have a good grip in my hand. It was a very awkward position for me, and that's when a round, of course, did not eject. I essentially limp-wristed the shotgun, but other than that one time, it functioned flawlessly, and I cannot even begin to describe to you the incredible sound and feeling that this shotgun makes when you pull that trigger. It is like this ka-chunk every single time, and even though it's slow, okay, it scratches that part of the brain that's like the most satisfying sound you've ever heard. It's like ASMR of shotguns, but to the 9th degree. I would buy this shotgun just for that sound. It's absolutely incredible. It mirrors an M1 Garand's ping. It is that good. But what I love about the SPAS-12 is every little aspect of this shotgun is dramatic. And that is why I think so many people were drawn to it for movies, games, TV shows, whatever. The racking of the action, there's all of these like ka-chinks and movement, and every button is super aggressive sounding. And when you load one round into the chamber, it's just what the movie sounds that are out there of shotguns, this thing replicates in real time. And each part of it, I'm like lighting up with a smile. It's absolutely an incredible feeling. I also did try the pump action mode, which, if you're unfamiliar with the SPAS-12, in order to get it from semi-automatic to pump action, you have actually an A and an M here, and that's going to line up perfectly with the bottom of your essentially action arm, but you have this button underneath. You're going to press that, move it down into position from A to M, and that's going to allow you to pump the action. Now, this is where everything gets very confusing for the SPAS-12, and where I think a lot of people don't read the manual or understand how it works, and they go trying to act like it's a regular shotgun. I don't know what the heck's going on, and they don't like it at all, and they say it's a piece of crap. Now, the SPAS-12 has two safeties, and that's where it gets very, very interesting. You have a quick safety on the side, and then you have a standard manual button safety or lever safety, depending on the model. Now, the quick safety, every single time, so if I put it back in manual, every time that you cycle the action, if there is a closed action, that is going to go back on. So if I remove the safety, so if I pull that safety down in that position, I can move the charging handle back and we are good to go. It's open. Now, if I want to close that action, let's listen to the sounds. Whew, that's pretty good. If I want to close that action, oh, I can't get it out again. Now, like a Mossberg or a Remington would have a really easy release, the Franchi has this quick safety. Now, in order to get that action open again, I'm going to have to push that back, and then I can get the action open. But that is very annoying because you kind of forget about that. Now again, on a regular shotgun, it's going to do that too, but it's a lot easier to understand and get to somehow. So that trips a lot of people up, that little mini safety that's going on there. Now that can be the only safety on the gun. You don't have to use the push button safety. Now, the other thing that gets people, and I've seen this even in big videos, in order to load the SPAS-12 and put rounds into the magazine tube, you have to hold this button on the side. And what I've seen, I can display that with these dummy rounds here. For me, the easiest way to do this was to hold the button down, load the dummy round in, and then let go of the button. And then when I want to run another round, I hold the button in, put the round in to position, push it all the way in, and then let go of the button. What I was noticing a lot of people doing, they were holding this button down the entire time, and the rounds were not properly locking into place. So you can get into a pretty good rhythm of load one, lift up, load one, lift up, load one, lift up, and it's pretty easy. But I've also seen people not understand that this button here on the other side is actually a magazine cutoff button. And I saw actually a big channel talking about having to hold both of these buttons down to get it in, and their thumbs getting caught, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? That is not at all how this works. You got to hold the side down, that is it, to get your round in. Now, is it annoying? Does it make any sense at all? No, it does not make any sense at all, and yes, it is annoying. Pump action, semi-automatic, it worked 100%. The grouping was tight even without using the factory choke, and I experienced zero issues on reliability with whatever ammunition I was running through mine. The recoil impulse, also I've heard complained about, but in this case, even with high brass buckshot, was incredibly pleasant, and I'm pretty picky when it comes to the recoil impulse of a shotgun. I did notice that when the arm hook was installed, the recoil impulse was actually better than when it was off, so that's also something to note. In my research of the SPAS-12, I came across the SPAS, I say SPAS and SPAS, and who the hell knows what it is. I'm going to use them each interchangeably, but I came across the SPAS-12 project online. I wish that guy was still putting stuff out because he made some really cool components that I wish were still available, and they're just not. That was in 2010. It's been a long time since then, and they're just not out there anymore. But there's still a lot of good information. One thing that he said, if you plan on getting one of these shotguns, prepare to put at least $50 to $60 in replacement buffers in this shotgun to get it to run reliably. And that's where we get to kind of the second nature of why I think a lot of these reviews are not great, is I think people buy this shotgun, it's fairly complicated to take apart and clean, and the manual doesn't really help out at all, and there's not really much information. So I think people buy it, don't really clean it, assume, it's just a shotgun, it's just gonna run. They don't replace any of the buffers or understand how to replace the buffers or take the time to actually do research into a gun that they're reviewing, and then go to the range, go to shoot it, and it ends up kind of falling apart or breaking. And you know, these guns have been through a lot. They're kind of on the slightly more delicate side of things, although now after the range day with this thing, it's kind of still built like a brick shithouse. So I'm not really sure where a lot of that is coming from. If you want a SPAS-12 in this configuration, you must buy it in this configuration. A lot of people out there that I was seeing bought one with a fixed stock in hopes of getting a folding stock at some point in the future. I have never seen a gun that is so hard to find individual parts for than the SPAS-12. So much so that if you have a fixed stock, you will have to buy another shotgun with a folding stock in order to get that folding stock. It is that hard to find. So if you want a SPAS, get it with everything that you want on it from the get, because it's going to be very, very difficult to replace. There is a buffer inside of the receiver that I was able to find on Midway USA. That's where I got that, so I swapped that out. I was able to replace that. Mine ended up just simply falling apart into a million little pieces, so that commonly happens with these. Vintage Grips was the company that made that, so that's perfect placement. And finally, I ended up replacing the buffer in the folding stock, which is right here. And I found that on Gunbroker, but if you're handy with a 3D printer, I'm sure you could probably reprint that. Mine, again, was broken in half. That's a very typical piece to be broken. And that's something you really want to switch out because it prevents egg shaping of that hole there, and I think that also helps out with the recoil control a good bit. The one part that I was not able to replace is the sling swivel drum, and as you can see, it's a separate type of plastic. Almost always nowadays, these are broken. So that's something to just understand when you're getting into this shotgun. And unfortunately, they riveted this into place. So if you want to replace this, you have to drill out the rivet, replace the stock retaining piece here, and then replace the drum. Now again, if you were handy with a 3D printer, I'm sure that would be doable. But again, once you drill that out, there's no going back. So you better make sure you can reprint that. In my case, I don't really care. I'll go Jurassic Park style and clip my sling on the stock and call it a day. But that's just something to note. And that really happened a lot. People would lean their SPASs up on the wall or something and they'd fall over, break that piece. And it's kind of a terrible place to have a sling swivel drum, but that is, you know, exactly what they decided to do. As far as running this at the range and like kind of doing quick transitions, I found it to be a pretty damn good shotgun. Again, I'm being as honest as possible, but it's funny, the more I get into these 80s pre-bans and grail guns, I see so much stuff talked about these online, and even in the videos when they're actually shooting these guns, and I really think a lot of what's going on here is just a regurgitation of forum posts from back in the day about other people that have never shot these guns or don't know how to maintain them, and again, that they just kind of regurgitate that online. And I've seen anybody like Forgotten Weapons or the SPAS-12 project that has these guns and has really done deep dives into the design and manufacturing process, that they speak very highly of these guns. And again, I'm going to kind of agree with what they have to say because I'm seeing that in mine as well. Now, the pump action on this was designed kind of as an afterthought. A lot of complaints about the spring of these, but I didn't find that to be terrible. The one thing that I will agree with on the SPAS-12 and the shootability of the shotgun is it is not a shotgun designed for speed. Let me tell you what, it is a slow shotgun to fire, but it's satisfying. So it kind of, you know, it's a little bit of both worlds. In semi-automatic, I was definitely seeing that you got to be very deliberate with the trigger. It's not a super heavy trigger, but it's not a super fast trigger. So it's just the action is slow. There's a lot of moving parts, and the pump, because of the spring, again, a lot of just moving parts going on. But once you get used to that, it is absolutely doable. I also replaced the O-ring on the barrel. 1100 or 1187 O-rings also fit this, but again, something else you're just going to want to keep up with to maintain, and that's really the case with any semi-automatic shotguns. These shotguns are absolutely only going to increase in value, so that is something as well. But this will never be leaving my collection, and it will be front and center on the gun wall for a very, very long time. That is going to wrap up this first impressions video on the SPAS-12. I hope to do many more with this shotgun in the collection now. If you have any other questions about this shotgun or anything else on the channel, please put them down below in the comment section. And as always, I absolutely will get back to you. Stay tuned for more great videos coming soon.